Singh ji. So he has completed his LLM and PhD from our university and PhD on RTA itself in 2015 under the guidance of Professor Priti Saxena, who is director of the Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, BBAU. And he has taught in this Department of Human Rights and also in the Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies for more than 6 years before joining this Amity University, Amity Law School, Lucknow campus recently in October 2022. In 21, he has written 22. He has joined in October 2021 this Amity Law School, Lucknow campus. And before that, he has also worked with the Uttaranchal University, Dehradun, and he had the experience of teaching there for a period of 1 year. So far as the academic contributions are concerned, he has contributed 5 chapters in different books of national and international repute. He has written 27 articles and research papers in various journals of not only of India but of abroad also. And to his credit, he has got one book also that is on RTI itself, most naturally. And he has, since he has completed his post graduation and PhD in RTI, he has been giving the lectures as a resource person, and he has become a kind of a specialist in the field of Right to Information Act. And he has also been the resource person in All India Radio Lucknow and UP Resource Center MHRD, Uttar Pradesh, India. So with this personality among us, I must say that we have seen him as a very laborious, very diligent student of our DHR. He has got all the charisma of personality, and he has very good leadership qualities also. And he has also had the department in strengthening his legal aid, cleaning, etc. So positively, he has contributed a lot in the development and progress of the department. And today, we all faculty members, Professor Priti Saxena, Dr. Rashida, Dr. Shashi Kumar ji, Dr. Rashveer Shankal, Dr. Rajeev Kumar Singh, all welcome him here on this platform of Alumni Lecture Series. So now I hand over the mic to Dr. Rajeev Singh ji to start his lecture on the topic under the Right to Information Act.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam. First of all, I am very grateful to Head and D, DHR SLS, Professor Priti Mishra ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to give a talk on right to information. And I'm equally thankful to my guru, Professor Priti Saxena, is here, who make me able to speak on the topic, because I have done my research on under his able guidance, and I equally convey my gratitude to all the faculty members of DHR SLS. And the topic that has assigned to me is the right to know under Right to Information Act and overview. So my whole talk on this right to information will be divided in 3 parts. Actually, firstly, I would focus on the
Whether he got disconnected?
Yeah, connection lost.
Sorry for the interruption. He is just joining. You all know on this online platform there's network issue. After he has joined. Welcome again. You are mute, Dr. Rajiv.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I lost my connection. So uh, I was discussing that my complete talk on this right to know under the Right to Information Act and overview will be divided in three parts, and I'll try to justify with the given topic. The first part, I'll discuss the global perspective relating to the right to information, its genesis, and how the this right to information came at the global level, and to which actually freedom or right help to coin this idea of this right to information act and how it is materialized in the law. And my second portion of talk will be very much concerned with the our own indigenous constitutional perspective relating to this right to information. And third, I'll give a critical observation on the Right to Information Act itself with the 2019 amendment. So, as far as the global perspective of freedom of the information is concerned, uh, first of all, information in the current scenario is a power. Information is a power, and once the information is synthesized, it becomes knowledge. And once knowledge is synthesized, it becomes the wisdom. So, the question is to whom the whole effort at the international level and national level was made to get the information. Actually, it was the state, the mightiest body to whom the people were willing to seek the information. In a general term, when we are not able to get the information from an individual, can we think of to seek information to that body for which Hegel says that it is a march of God on the earth as a big brother. So mightiest body is a state, and at that time, king too. So the whole idea to seek the information was from the state side, means the public authority side. Now, the freedom of information as a tool to make government accountable is not something recent phenomenon. Once we will discuss the Indian scenario and we'll discuss the Ramacharita that has been written by Tulsidasa. So the first RTI or first query that has been asked by Bali to Lord Rama. And when the Lord Rama killed Bali, the question was raised, although this is very pertinent to the criminal law, and thereafter the criminal justice system not only adopted, we have come up with the Article 22 in the Indian Constitution also. कि धर्म हेतु अवतरव गोसाई मारव मोहि व्याधि की नाही मैं बैरी सुग्रीव प्यारा अवगुण कवन नाथ मोहि मारा. For what offense and in what capacity you have killed me? This was the first RTI in the indigenous jurisprudence of India that has been seeked by Bali to Lord Ram. Now, freedom of information as a tool to make a government accountable. As I said, that it is a very oldest phenomenon. And this credit goes to Sweden, which has the oldest legislation relating to public access to official documents. The Swedish Freedom of the Press Act, adopted in 1766, set up principles that government records were by default to be made accessible to the public and guaranteed citizens' right to the demand documents from government bodies, which were prepared and received by them. The basic tendency why the people of the Sweden demanded the freedom of information from the government, and how this Riksdag, the parliament of the Sweden, come up with the freedom of information law at that time. Actually, at that time, the corruption was boom. Nepotism, favoritism, red tapeism, all the ism were prevailing in the Sweden. And the people with their movement to the opposition party comes together, and they start demanding the freedom of information law so that a check and balance can be placed on the government. And by this too much pressure, the Riksdag, the parliament of the Sweden, come up with the Freedom of Information Press Act, adopted in 1766. And for this, Sweden citizens did not have to provide a reason that for what reason they are demanding the information. As a matter of right, they can claim, they can demand the information. Documents that were too exempted from the disclosure were defined in the Secrecy Act, and even under this act, they were secret only for a specific period of time. It simply means all the documents was not open for the public, but some secrets were allowed, but that secrets was also not for the time immemorial. The time period has been fixed that for what a particular period, the some documents which can be a classified document can be put in the grave of secrecy. Now, however, for over a country, Sweden remained the only nation that took to transforming this principle into the legal right. It was not until the creation of the United Nations in the period following the Second World War, the concept of the right to information began to spread. And countries began to enact comprehensive law for public access to government held documents and inform. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 called for persons to have right to seek, receive information. And soon after, many Nordic countries began to look at the Swedish model. For example, Finland enacted the law on the public character of official document in the 1951. Norway and Denmark equally passed their information access law in 1970, and the next 30 to 40 years, they were followed by the United States Freedom of Information Act 1966. France and Netherlands in 1978, and even the UK's Freedom of Information Act 2000 was finally implemented in year 2005. So over a time period, freedom of information laws has become increasingly common across the globe. Over 18 and 19 countries around the world have now adopted the Comprehensive Freedom of Information Act to facilitate access to records that were held by the public, that public authorities or the government. Now, as far as the international some instrument is concerned, all the international instrument, either the ICCPR, either ICSCPR, either Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UN General Assembly through its 56th General Meeting. In all, we have to find the freedom of speech and expression. The basic idea, the requirement of the Right to Information Act is needed because a citizen as a person cannot even speak a single word without the information. So first cardinal requirement is the information, and without the information, it is just impossible to speak. And most importantly, in a democratic setup where decent it becomes so much important to put check and balance of the government of the day on that condition, this information becomes very important, very essential for to materialize this freedom of speech and expression. And all in ICCPR, ICSER, Universal Declaration, or UN General Assembly, or the various conventions are there everywhere. This right to information has been interpreted in the freedom of speech and expression, and gradually from 1960 to 1966 and thereafter, we will find that this freedom of speech and expression, basically three rights were there: seek, receive, and impart information. Most important is a rider that has been placed without frontless, regardless any frontier, means without any rider, seek, receive, and impart information. As far as the technological development, once we will refer the international instrument, we will find that firstly in writing are in oral. Secondly, due to the advancement of the technology, caricature, floppies, in the form of any email, opinion, all the things have been now included in the freedom of speech and expression. And that actually has widened the scope to get the information and how to get the information and how to disseminate the information. This has widened the whole idea of the freedom of speech and expression. As far as the European countries are concerned, it becomes also important. In Europe, nearly all nations have adopted the freedom of information law. Many Western European countries adopted these laws starting from the 1970s. In the Central and Eastern Europe, for instance, the change was more dramatic. Instead of a more gradual way, it was very much dramatic in nature. Actually, the breakdown of the USSR led to the rush of laws into the region, starting with the UK and Hungary 1992, and then Azerbaijan, then Macedonia, and however, Russia and Belarus remain among the larger states which are without any freedom of information law. And this time it becomes very important. So it is a burning issue. That is why I pointed out this that it till now this Russia and Belarus is a country where freedom of information laws are not there. So the organization which played an important role in propagating the freedom of information laws in Europe is a Open Society Institute, once we refer there, which took the lead in promoting the transparency. And the United Kingdom adopted the Freedom of Information Act in November 2000 and became fully effective from the year 2005. And it is very important to note here that the countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand has passed their freedom of information laws in early 1980s. And this relatively late adoption of the freedom of information law by the UK came despite strong demands of the civil society groups. One of the election promises by the Labour Party, which rose the power in 1997 after a long period of conservative rule, was to adopt the right to information legislation, which was eventually completed in 2000. However, after the 11th September 2001, when this attack on the United States take place, the UK government delayed implementation of these key elements of the law until January 2005. So this act provides that any person making a request for the information to public authority is entitled to be informed whether or not the body holds the information. And if it does to have the information, be communicated to him. However, this right is subject to other provisions like the act, like the regime of exceptions, payment of any fee, and exemptions of uh, various vexations or repeated requests are there. So once we will look the Freedom of Information Act of the United Kingdom, we will find almost similarity in the Right to Information Act 2005 in India, and it was very obvious because we were the colony of Great Britain for so much long time, and the most of the laws that created hindrance in India was drafted by that colonial regime. Now, when we are discussing the United Kingdom, it becomes very important to make judicial efforts that has been made in the United Kingdom. One very prominent case that I'm recalling here is a Conway versus Rimmer. Actually, case was very simple. One person was employed somewhere in a security duty as a constable, and the prosecution came against him for the theft and uh, some lurking of the house, and fire take place. So that person who was prosecuted demanded the register on which he signed, and this was the clear proof that he was present on his duty. And unfortunately, the prosecution side, this defense has been taken that in the name of the crown privilege, that document is withheld by the government and that cannot be placed in the code of law. When this case came to the House of Lords in the appeal, Justice Lord Reed was there, and Justice Lord Reed, this case becomes very important because this case has been cited in India too much, starting from the ESP Gupta onwards. So, for the first time, Lord Reed actually has totally denied this crown privilege and coined a new term that is a public interest immunity. This is a public interest immunity, not a crown privilege. Justice Reed said that it is a court who will decide whether the document will be produced in the public domain or not. And on this observation, he classified the document in the class document and content document. And in the content document, he categorically mentioned that these documents, these subject matters which are placed in content document will be open to all the public. And as far as the class document, the classified information will be there, and that will not be open for the common people. So this journey started. And in US also, as I told that in 60s, they have come up with the freedom of information laws. In the criminal laws, actually, one case is R versus Nixon. And US Supreme Court categorically rejected the event when it is related to the criminal matter. And in the criminal matter, interest, not immunity, public interest privileged. So both in UK and USA, court has played a very vital role. When it is will required, I'll discuss the cases one by one. So the public authorities are also listed, not only the Right to Information Act 2005, but in the Freedom of Information Act of the UK of 2005. So the Freedom of Information Act of UK, this act actually contains two separate system of fees. Because once we will look to the Indian Right to Information Act, we will also discuss that how the fee structure relating to the demand of the information is there. The two separate system is there. One is for the ordinary request, that is for the general information, and other comes into pay for more complicated or the very classified information. So two type fee system is there, and in India we have adopted only one type of fee system. And for the first, public authorities may disclose information only after the payment of fee, and any such fee must be paid within the 3 months, as far as this Section 9, Class 2 of the UK Freedom of Information Act 2005 says. And as far as the second is concerned, the second type of the fee that is required, the time period has not been fixed. It will be observed by the authority although they will take the fee for the second class also, but that will depend on which time it will be very pertinent to disclose the information. And till now, the I till now it will be so the authority that they will decide that this disclosing this information will be is a right time, or it is not the suitable time. It is totally will be in the hands of the authorities. It is very genuine because when we will discuss our right to information act, we have also opted some exemptions because not only the fundamental right, this right to information is also byproduct of the fundamental right, so it is not also absolute. So here now, if we go to the make a comparative analysis between the UK and Indian system, we will find too much similarities relating to the information, exemption, fees, appeal procedure, etc., etc. Now, the question arises that how this American system, actually, this freedom of information is concerned. The United States of America's legislation in the Innovative Act and has given the rest of the world 40 years of experience to draw on. There is a long history of access of the public information in the US, and the history of access to public records in the United States and some states of the United States have provided access to records for over a century. The US Freedom of Information Act was enacted in 1966 and went into effect in the year after. And in addition, all 50 individual states of the United States currently have a right to information law of their own. Here it becomes also very important because we have come up with a union now. And I'll discuss that how this Freedom of Information Amendment Act 2019 to some extent tries to hamper the federal structure, and why Article 27 of the Indian this Right to Information Act could not be materialized in later and the Freedom of Information Act has been substantially amended in the US several times. The law allows any person or organization, regardless of citizenship, to ask for records held by the federal government agencies. Now, these agencies include executive and military departments. And once we will make a comparative study with our Right to Information Act with the US Freedom of Information Act, we will see that through through Section 24 and through second schedule of the Right to Information Act, we had also made the exclusion provision in which we have excluded some organizations from the ambit of the Right to Information Act, and the list of those organizations are given in the second schedule of this Right to Information Act. But once we look towards the US Freedom of Information law, the departments, government, corporations, and other entities which perform government function, except for the Congress, the courts are the president's immediate staff at the White House as well as the National Security Council. The law is therefore focused on the executive branch of the government and does not cover either the legislative branch, means that is the Congress, or the courts. Dear friends, actually here becomes a very important that when we will discuss our Indigenous Right to Information Act, here we will see that how the classification has been made, and in the name of excessive secrecy, we have become too much caution. Actually, law is the product of socio-economic, historical, geographical condition of any country. We have our diverse condition, so that we have opted in that model. But this point is very important to remember when we will make a comparative study with the Indian Right to Information Act, that how the UK has given the actual exposure, actual access to their citizens toward the information. Now, there are nine categories of discriminatory exemptions: national securities, internal agency rules, information protected by other statutes, business information, and inter and intra-agency memos. This is the exemption that has been placed in the US Freedom of Information Law. Actually, since September 2001, when this 9/11 took place in US, the US government passed certain legislation such as US Patriot, uniting the strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to interpret and obstruct terrorism Act 2001, and the Homeland Security Act 2002. This Patriot Act and Security Act 2 acts and other non-legislative measures have been taken place which limit the access to sensitive and potential sensitive informations in USA. So there has also been unprecedented forces of reclassification wherein thousands of declassified documents at national archives. So this was the UK and US provision relating to the Indian system, and how we have opted this model, and to what extent we have tried to come up with the Right to Information Act, how good practices from these laws we have opted in ours. Now, as far as the once we will make a comparison to the Asia Pacific region, Australia and New Zealand, and actually in Commonwealth countries, as you people are aware that all those countries are the members in this Commonwealth who were the colony of Great Britain at certain point of time. And in that region, specifically the Australia, New Zealand, which the original adopters of the South Korea and Thailand followed the 1990s. Japan adopted a national law in 2000, and nearly 3,000 localities had their own laws. So it becomes very important that what India did when almost all the countries were coming up with the access to information, empowering to their citizens. In India, following the adoption of such laws in a number of states, a national law was adopted in 2002, but was not implemented. Reason was very simple. This law was having many loopholes. Although this has been passed but couldn't see the light of the day, it was replaced in 2005 by a stronger law. The Indian Right to Information Act 2005 is limited to citizens only, as like to the US, because they have incorporated the corporations, NGOs, and number of things they have incorporated. But we have whatever if the NGOs that must be registered in India. So we have limited in that sense. It extends to the whole India now. Now the RTI Act 2005 is binding on both national and state governments. And the Act provides for appointment of both central and state public information officers, as well as the establishment of both commissioners to the central and state. The main exemptions are given in Section 8 of the Act, which are largely inconsistent with the other right to information law. Section 24 provides for the exclusion of number of intelligence and security bodies from the ambit of the Right to Information Act. Under Section 22, that is the overriding effect, provisions of the Act shall have effect in spite of inconsistency they may have with the Official Secrets Act 1923 or any other law for the time being in force. So, on the whole, the Indian law is a comprehensive one. Now, in our nearby countries, you can say the right to information right law in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh. So number of countries now they are coming with the freedom of information law just to empower their citizenry, just to make their citizenry more vibrant citizenry, and to make their democracy genuine democracy. Now, one thing that becomes very important to discuss here, that proactive disclosure is very important. Now, the question is, what is proactive disclosure? It is being increasingly recognized by most of the countries that the of freedom to information that has been held by the public authorities, as such, many national freedom of information law imposes a duty on government or agencies to relate on their own certain categories of information on their websites. Many of them recent laws such as the uh, Peru, Azerbaijan, India, Kazakhstan, Bangladesh, you can take just the name. So this generally believe that as the number of documents directly accessible to the public increase, the number of requests for the information decreases. So this suo motu disclosure can also improve the efficiency of public bodies. Whatever law till now we have discussed in the UK, in the USA, or in Australia, or in the Commonwealth countries, everywhere the ultimate thing that we will find that proactive disclosure. And our Right to Information Act also discuss the proactive disclosure that has been, although this burden has been shifted on the shoulders of the public authorities, that they will come up with the proactive disclosure. But yes, the provision is clear cut. Exemption from the disclosure is concerned, almost all the freedom of information laws contain provisions regarding the information that may be withheld from release. There are a number of common exemptions found in nearly all laws. These include the protection of national security, international relations, personal privacy, commercial confidentiality, public order, information received in confidence, internal discussions. So, number of things like cabinet papers, these are the information that has been excluded from the ambit of the Right to Information Act, but all are not for time immemorial. In the names that I have taken, some are of the for a time specified time of period, they are exempted, and once the time period is completed, they are open for the all. Now, a difficult issue is the relation of right to information law with the secrecy law. In most of the countries, right to information law do not hinder secrecy law. Although in South Africa and India, the right to information has overriding effect. The UK itself, who come up with the Official Secret Act 1911, 23, 29, they repealed this Official Secret Act. But the country like India, South Africa, these laws are still in force. Only thing, non-obstacle clause is Article 20, Section 22 of the Right to Information Act. Non-obstante clause. It simply means, simply it gives the overriding effect to the all those laws, official secret laws and other laws that comes in the pathway of the hiding the information or putting the information in the grab of the secrecy. Now, I'll discuss the Indian perspective that how this Right to Information Act came into the Indian scenario. Actually, the Right to Information Act 2005, this act enacted in June 2005. The
Oh,
movement for right to information
oh. Dr. Rajeev,
originated.
can you be
Ji, ma'am.
bilingual? Can you speak in Hindi also somewhere?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
if you can,
Uh,
not compulsory. Oh.
yeah, please. Yes, ma'am. No problem. Actually, that is my Madri Juban, and undoubtedly, the NEP
Yeah,
has
most
also
of the
mandated.
students are from Hindi medium. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And I think this Madri language will be more helpful to give the direction and to make a deliberation with our listeners. जहां तक सूचना के अधिकार का भारत में आगमन और इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का प्रश्न उत्पन्न होता है, सो दिस राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन एक्ट जर्नी is started by the grassroots level persons. This was the journey not started by the corporates. This was not the journey started by the legislature. This was the journey started, this was the demand that has been placed and put forward by the grassroots level persons. And the overall this movement for the Right to Information Act originated at the very grassroots level, and this started from the Rajasthan. This credit again goes to Panchayati Raj system, credit goes to Rajasthan, and this again, this Right to Information Act credit goes to the Rajasthan, because this whole Panchayati Raj system, when we will discuss the three-tier model and we will discuss the development at the grassroots level. Actually, in Rajasthan, not only the Rajasthan, घोस्ट एंट्री, भूत का प्रवेश हुआ मास्टर रोल पर. As those who must be knowing the working of the Panchayati Raj, in the Panchayati Raj system, in the block level development system, pradhans are there and they prepare the master roles. And in the master roles, fake names are placed, and the daily their salary is withdrawn in their name, and it has been misused by the pradhans and their secretaries and all the people. So this ghost entry entered in this master role, and that is why uh, they starting the agitation and they demanded the disclosure for the master role. The right to information is not explicitly stated in the constitution. It has been product of the judicial interpretation of the constitution by the Supreme Court. And this interpretation can be viewed in the context of the right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19(1)(a). Actually, this Article 19(1)(a), for which once in Maneka Gandhi, it has been said that 19, 21, and 14 is a golden triangle, 19 is the bedrock of democracy. Once you want to check that how vibrant democracy in a country is, for example, if you want to check the, if some mechanism is there to check the vibrancy of the democracy, inform citizenry, how the freedoms are available to the citizens, you have to just check Article 19. All those rights given in Article 19 is a democratic. So this article, although it gets automatically suspended when the emergency is imposed, but till now, once it is not in the picture, it simply means emergency is there. And once it is in the picture, it sim- once it is not uh, in the enforcement, it's one anyone can see that it is the emergency provisions are there. So the right to this freedom of speech and expression under Article 19, it is by the judicial interpretation, and this right to information, media right, and this right to be forgotten, three rights have been emerged through this Article 19 till now. And in the Article 19, an important result of this judicial pronouncement had been that the scope of this right has gradually widened by the apex judiciary. Restrictions were initially imposed by the Newsprint Control Order 1972 and 1973 in the case of Bennett Coleman and Company versus Union of India, as the Times of India group. And it was contended that the newsprint control order imposed unreasonable restrictions on the freedom of the press. And it was also argued that the restriction on the press implied restriction on the readers who could not read newspapers of their choice. So the majority judgment held that the impugned order did not merely violate the right of the newspaper to publish, but it violates the right of the readers also to get the information, and which was included within the right to freedom of speech and expression. What actually in this Bennett Coleman and some other cases, like the media cases, the crux of all these cases, because one by one it will be not, it will be very difficult task to cover in such a short span of time. But the ultimate crux that has happened, that Supreme Court has categorically mentioned that media has no specific right. It enjoys only those rights which are given to the citizens under Article 19(1)(a). Exclusive right is not there. So it is the right of the news readers, and that they will get the information through the newspaper. That is why this right is given to the newspaper also. Our newspapers are covered in this right. So it is a individual's right. Once we will discuss the Association for Democratic Reforms versus Union of India. Actually, the High Court of Delhi held that voters had the right to receive relevant information. Now, how the voters' right come. And about the histories of the candidates who are contesting for the elections. Indian politics has very often been marked by the elections of the individuals with legally questionable past. And therefore, one way of the taking care of this problem is informing voters of the criminal record of the candidates. And the right to information for voters is thus essential for healthy and transparent elections. So the court held that it is the duty of the election commission that they had to ensure and inform the voters of the past of the candidates. And it therefore could direct the candidates filing nominations for the elections to furnish details of their assets, liabilities, past criminal cases, whether ending in acquittals or convictions, and pending criminal prosecutions as well. So the union government appealed against this decision in the Supreme Court. Now you can see that how proactive this government comes against the Delhi High Court decision. And they appealed in the Supreme Court against the decision, and which upheld the Delhi High Court decision, and the case was Union of India versus Association for Democratic Reforms. The court in 2002 directed the Election Commission to demand information regarding the candidates' conviction or acquittal of any criminal offense, assets, liabilities, and educational qualifications. So the Election Commission issued a directive on in June 2002 to materialize this judgment, and subsequently all political parties called a common meeting, and they have decided that they will undo the judgment of the Supreme Court, and for that they made a change through the ordinance by applying Article 1 to 3 of the Indian Constitution to amend the People's Representation Act 1951. This ordinance withdrawn from the Election Commission the power to demand the required information. As mandated by the Supreme Court order, this ordinance was sent to the then President, Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who returned it to the parliament for reconsideration. However, since it was sent to the parliament thereafter, the president signed it in August 2002. The ordinance was converted into an act and section 33A was added to the People's Representation Act. And as per this section, a candidate was required to give only as much information as was mentioned within the act. Demands as per the Supreme Court judgments were to ignore, and further 33B was added by the amendment, and it has actually an attempt to undo the judgment and to paralyze the voters' right to seek the information towards to to the candidates who are going to contest in the election. This amendment, which all the political parties unanimously come, it has been its constitutional validity has been challenged in the PUCL versus Union of India 2003. The Supreme Court held that the amendment to the Representation of the People's Act, which ignored the sensitive information about the candidate's past, violated the right to information of the voters. So the logic was that right to know the past of the candidates contesting elections was essential for the right to freedom of speech and expression guaranteed by Article 19(1)(a). The court further stated that this Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, in Association for Democratic Reform versus Union of India, was not mere res judicata, Latin terms, which means the matter has already been decided and it has been judged by between the two parties, but was a decision containing an interpretation of the Constitution. And the constitutional interpretation of the court cannot be overridden by an act of the parliament. So it requires an amendment to the Constitution. And even the amendment of the Constitution cannot be struck down if it violates the basic structure of the Constitution. So now here it becomes very important to look the Article 19(1)(a) and judicial interpretation. Here one case is also very important to cite in which Justice Matthew, Senior Justice Matthew, not his son who is the presently judge in the Supreme Court, Senior Justice Matthew, he in Rajnarayan versus State of UP, when the Mr. Rajnarayan challenged the election of Mrs. Gandhi on the violation and misuse of his post, that he through by virtue of her post she misused her power, and that is why she won the election. It was challenged, and for that purpose, like in R versus Nixon in USA that I discussed earlier, in this case Justice Matthew asked that how you will prove that Mrs. Gandhi misused her power. And this was the most important evidence that was asked from Rajnarayan to place in the court of law, which can prove that Mrs. Gandhi misused her power. Rajnarayan contended that if the government can give the blue book in the court in which the tools and travel programs of the VVIPs are planned, I will be in position to prove that Mrs. Gandhi, how many times she visited his constituency, undoubtedly, regularly, and how much she misused her power. In this case, Justice Matthew although held that the Rajnarayan has a right to know, and but he has not right to know each and every affairs of the government, because now remember the Conway versus Rimmer, where Justice Lord Reed classified the class and content document, here Justice Matthew very categorically said that yes, you have the right to know, but you don't have right to know each and everything. So here the classification has again been made, and this classification continues. When we come up with the SP Gupta case versus Union of India, as you all are aware, that in this case, the Supreme Court examined how judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts are appointed under Article 124, Class 2 of and Article 217, Class 1 of the Constitution, respectively. So, in order to determine whether requisite consultation for the appointment has taken place, it is necessary for the court to examine the relevant papers, including correspondence between the Chief Justice of India and the government. On behalf of the government, it was argued that such correspondence formed part of the advice given to the given by the Council of Ministers and could not be disclosed by virtue of Article 74, Class 2 of the Constitution. While dismissing this argument, the court held that while the exact advice given by the Council of Ministers to the President could not be examined by the court, it's okay, no problem in that. But the material on which such advice was based was not excluded from the judicial purview, and it is the court who will decide that that document will be open to the public or not. So next, the court dealt with the privilege to withhold the disclosure of such correspondence claimed by the government under Section 123, read with Section 126 of the Indian Evidence Act 1872. This case was heard by seven judges bench, of which six held that no privilege could be claimed with respect to the document. And with respect to the advice which constitute the material for forming opinion in the case of appointment and transfer of the judges. And in this case, again, remember Conway versus Rim. Learned Justice P.N. Bhagwati stated in his judgment that there might be documents which need to be withheld in the public interest, such as cabinet minutes, minutes of discussion between the heads of the departments, high-level interdepartmental correspondence, dispatches from ambassadors from abroad, etc., etc. But the need of candor and frankness must be regarded as a factor to be taken into account in determining whether that balance is being maintained or not. Who will decide whether the public interest is in the disclosure of the information or to putting the information in the grave of the secrecy? Further, immunity against the disclosure that has been claimed under Section 123 of the Indian Evidence Act was not a privilege which could be waived by the state. It is an immunity which was granted in order to protect public interest. It is not for the protect the interest of the government of the day. And therefore, even if the state did not claim such immunity, it was the duty of the court to make sure that no document, the disclosure of which would harm public interest was disclosed. In this case, Justice Bhagwati, most finest mind of the Indian Supreme Court, has held that when the world democracies are leading towards the open government system, how the India, which is the largest democracy, can be closed one. So this was the approach of the Supreme Court in starting, because I will discuss some cases in which Supreme Court is starting to change its mind, and how they come up with the U-turn in that case. Now, I'll discuss to some points relating to the Right to Information Act itself. Actually, this whole Right to Information Act has been divided in six chapters, 31 sections. And once we will see the Right to Information Act, this Right to Information Act, it's the object and reason clause itself says that it is an act to provide for setting out the practical regime of right to information. Now the question is how this practical regime. Now remember, when we started the Indian preamble, it says that we the people of India, how Indian wants to make their own country. We the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. How this democratic means this democratic setup will sustain, and not only the sustain, how this will be more vibrant democracy. Once we look the uh, American this Gettysburg Conference, in which Abraham Lincoln said that government of the people, for the people, by the people. Last yesterday was uh, the we celebrated the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and in the parliamentary debate through the drafting of the constitution, Dr. Ambedkar said that people of the countries have fed up with the of the government and for the government. And now the actual requirement is by the government. And how this by the government can be made, this is only and only possible by the setting out the practical regime of right to information. Just a minute. For the citizens to secure access to information. So now number of cases I discussed decided by the Supreme Court how this right to know and right to information journey has been traveled. Number of cases are there that I'll discuss if I'll get the time. So how this access to information can be made, and from where they will get the information. Once you will see the fundamental rights, you will find the fundamental rights are guaranteed against the state. And state categorically mentioned in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution. Here, to whom the information seeker will approach and to whom they will get the information. It is the public authority enforcement mechanism. Once you repeal Article 32 in the Indian Constitution and now see the importance of the fundamental rights. They are just mere declarations. There is no use. And what is the fundamental in fundamental prior to 44th Constitutional Amendment? There was no such fundamental. Until now, when we use the term inalienable, I don't consider anything fundamental. Yes, after 44th Amendment of the Indian Constitution, there are 20 and 21 is a fundamental right that I consider as a student of law is a fundamental. Now, it is a for what purpose this right to information has been made. This purpose is very same that Justice P.N. Bhagwati has said in the S.P. Gupta case, open government, promote transparency and accountability in the working of the every public authority. The constitution of Central Information Commission, State Information Commission, and matters there will incidental there too. Now, some I go very brief to the act. 31 articles are there, 31 sections are there. Section 31 is repealed now. So I'll discuss one by one the important aspect of the right to information. A critical analysis will be made from my side, and that will be only a tribute to my tribute to the Right to Information Act, because once we will refer the A.B. Dicey and his approach towards law and public opinion. Dicey categorically classified the society into two. One is a pragmatic society, another is a static society. This Right to Information Act is a biggest symbolic of the pragmatic society, where the society itself come forward and demanded the law for the redressal of their grievances. And in a static society, state imposes the law and publics are asked to obey the law. So this Right to Information Act is actually a pragmatic, most pragmatic law that I consider in the current scenario of India. Once the Article 1 is said, the title, extent, and commencement is there, that it extends to the whole India. And prior, when this 370 was not there, except the Jammu and Kashmir. Here, one thing that I want to disclose with you people, it may be slipped from my mind. So you people remember it. When we will discuss the appeal procedure in the Right to Information Act 2005, there was a very unique provision in the Jammu and Kashmir Information Act. In the Indian, this Right to Information Act, this Union Parent Act, Right to Information Act 2005, actually, there is no time period is fixed for the second appeal. This is the most backdrop of the Right to Information Act, and it is the sole reason for the pendency of thousand lakhs of cases are pending in the CICs and SICs. And in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, once we refer there, Jammu and Kashmir Right to Information Act, they have fixed the 90 days for the disposal of the second appeal that comes to the SIC, State Information Commission. That is the important thing you people have to get in your mind. So definition clause, appropriate government is there. So what is the meaning of appropriate government? It simply means the public authority which is established, constitute, own, control, or substantially finance. Here one thing is very important. What is the meaning of substantially finance? As far as this topic substantially finance is concerned, substantially finance does not mean 100% funding from the side of the government. Substantially finance means if the on the token cost land is there, electricity वायर बिछा दिए गए हैं, जमीन बहुत ही कम पैसे पे दे दी गई है, सुविधाएं दे दी गई हैं, राज्य सरकार ने वहां तक खड़ंजा बिछा दिया है कि आप एक स्कूल खोलेंगे, और उससे बाद में स्कूल एडेड हो जाता है लेकिन मैनेजमेंट उसमें बना हुआ है, और बाद में आप ये कहें कि ये सब्सटेंशियली फंडेड नहीं है, तो इसका तात्पर्य क्या होता है? दो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट केसेस आए, जो एक अपने उत्तर प्रदेश का ही केस है, दैट धारा सिंह गर्ल्स हाई स्कूल वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ यूपी. And in this case, very categorically, it has been decided that substantially funded does not mean 100% funding. Substantially funded means all those funds which was very cardinal, very important for the foundation and establishment of that institution. And here it was felt that that institution, the Dhara Girls High School, is liable to furnish the information. And there is a how this established, own, controlled, or substantially financed, are funded, provided, or directly under by the central government, or the union territory administration, or the central government. And the second is by the state government and the state government by the state government. Now, other important definitions is a CIC. What is the CIC means? I'll discuss in section 12 what is the CIC means. CIC, CPIO is there, Central Information Commission is there. Now the competent authority. What is the meaning of the competent authority under the right to information? As far as the competent authority is concerned, the speaker in the case of House of People, in the Legislative Assembly, speaker is there, and for the Rajya Sabha of the Council, the Deputy President is there, Chief Justice for the India in cases of Supreme Court, Chief Justice of High Court in the cases of High Court, the President or Governor, as the case may be, and the administrator appointed uh, under Article 239 of the Constitution. Now, most important thing, what is the information? What does information mean? We are discussing the Right to Information Act, Right to Information Act. It becomes very important to understand what the information means. Once we refer that section 2F of the Right to Information Act, information means any material in any form. This word is sufficient to discuss all the matter. Information means any material in any form. Now it says including records, documents, memos, emails, opinion. You take just name. All the things are given in the definition of this information. Now, one more important definition is what is the meaning of public authority. Public authority means any authority or body or institution of the self-government. It is very important to know what is the public authority because you have to approach to the public authority for seeking the information where you will get the information. Public authority means any authority or body or institution of self-government established or constituted by or under the Constitution, number one, by any other law made by the Parliament, by any other law made by the state legislature, by notification issued or order made by the appropriate government, and it includes, here it becomes very important to understand that too, it includes body owned, controlled, or substantially funded. Again, here substantially funded word. Right. And another is a non-government organizations substantially funded. Now, here the basic difference. It was Ajay Hasia and RMDC case. The credit goes to the Supreme Court. How the Supreme Court extended the meaning of the state. When the Supreme Court, through Justice P.N. Bhagwati, said that instrumentality of the state. And here, this definition is already been widened up by the legislature itself. Not only these bodies which are constituted under the Constitution, Parliament, state legislature, etc., but non-government organizations which are substantially funded by the government, that is directly or indirectly, by funds provided by the appropriate government. Now, other definitions are also there. What is the meaning of record and what is the right to information? Here, one thing becomes very important. What does right means? Once you say that it is my right, it is my right. So saying right is not sufficient. Supreme Court has started to say this right to know, right to know, right to know, and without the proper tool of this Right to Information Act 2005, it was not possible to seek the information because no such machinery or system was there. So how the people will access to information, mere declaring any right is not going to fulfill or any suffice any purpose. So most important thing is that how will a machinery will come up in the existence. This was the beauty of this Right to Information Act, that it through its object and reason itself says, discuss about the machinery and setup. Here, right, if you refer the summons theory, right simply says, summons says that right is an interest, recognized and protected by law. Now here, that right, which becomes the byproduct under Article 19(1)(a), recognized through the interpretation by the vibrant judiciary of the India. And now, by this Right to Information Act 2005, we had come up with a setup and machinery in which we will be able to approach the public authority for accessing the information. Now, this right to information means the right to information accessible under this act, which is held by or under the control of any public authority and includes the right to inspection of work. अगर आपके गांव में कोई प्राइमरी स्कूल बन रहा है, आप वहां जा सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं कि ईंट किस क्वालिटी की लगाई जा रही है। आप वहां जा करके देख सकते हैं कि उसमें किस मात्रा में बजरी का, किस मात्रा में मोरंग का, किस मात्रा में सीमेंट का प्रयोग किया जा रहा है। क्या वह रेशियो सही तरीके से मिलाया जा रहा है? और ये आप यही नहीं कर सकते हैं, बाकायदे उसका सैंपल आप ले सकते हैं और वहां पर कार्य कराने वाले प्राधिकारी के द्वारा उसकी सर्टिफाइड, अर्थात अगर पॉलीथीन में आप उसका सैंपल ले रहे हैं तो उस सैंपल को वहां पर सील करवा सकते हैं और उसके साथ आप उसके बारे में जानकारी कर सकते हैं। तो इंस्पेक्शन कर सकते हैं काम का, डॉक्यूमेंट का, रिकॉर्ड का, आप उसके नोट्स ले सकते हैं। You can extract our certified copies of documents and records and taking certified samples of the materials too. So this is the right to information. Under this right to information, how much rights are given to you, what you can do under this right. Now if you refer the section 2K that talks about the State Information Commission, State Chief Information Commission, then State Public Information Officer, and the last is 2N that talks about the third party. Here it becomes also very important to understand what is the meaning of third party. As far as this third party is concerned, it means one person is the information seeker and another is a public authority. Two parties are there. How this third party came? What was the objective? What was the legislative intent to place in section 29 the third party? Once the information is desired about any person, suppose X. So in this between the two party means the one is the information seeker, another is a public authority. The third person who comes in the picture is a third party. And third party means a person other than the citizen making a request for information and includes a public authority. Now, as far as this section 4 is concerned, 3 is the right to information. It simply means this right is given to the citizen. Categorically, section 3 says that right to information subject to the provisions of this act. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
Frozen, but now it's okay.
Okay. As far as this Right to Information Act, right to information, this right is available only to the citizens and all citizens. This word shall is used there. You people are law persons, so you must be aware the may and shall. And it is very important also. Sometimes may is constituted as shall, and where shall is itself here, it shows the gravity. So shall have right to information. Now the public obligations have been placed on the public authorities. What are the obligations of the public authorities? Although this act came in 2005, 100 days time period were given to the public authorities for making the preparation, to cataloging all the documents, collecting all the documents, placing all the documents on their websites, and computerize all the documents, the powers and duties of the employees, the particulars of its organization functions, the rules, regulations, instructions, manuals, records held and under control, implies for what they are discharging their functions, statement of the categories of documents. All these, this after 120 days, this act came into the effect. 100 days time period has been given to the public authorities so they can make the preparation to deal with the information seekers' grievances. How they will furnish the information if they don't have the records, if they don't have the any mechanism, if they don't have the category of the employees who will deal with this right to information. So APIO designation has been created. This PIO has been created. First appellate officer is created, and the second appeal undoubtedly is to the state RCS. Now this section 4 is actually very important section, and not only in it is important in that sense that it gives time to the public authorities and puts obligation on the public authorities to make preparation, cataloging, computerizing, budgeting, etc. etc. Numerous obligations have been placed on the public authorities, but one most objective behind that is suo motu disclosure. If they will make all these things in their obligation, as that has been obligated on them, the act intends that the thousands numbers of applications will automatically required not to be uh, and then it will lesser the load on the public authorities. And this suo motu disclosure actually is in the same line as I started discussing the proactive disclosure. So this was the duty imposed on the public authorities under Section 4. And Section 5 says designation of the public information officers. How, what will be the designations? Designations is very simple. The firstly, information seeker will send their application to the APIU, where assistant public information officer is there. APIU had to give the information. And in this act, the liability has been fixed on this APIU itself. Once this APIU fails, rejects without any reason, or denies to give the information without that information fallen in section 8, 9, and 10, then in that case, the APIO himself will be solely responsible. And in section 20 of this Right to Information Act, penalty provision is there on whom 250 rupees per day and 25,000 maximum penalty will be imposed on this APIO. The first person who have been this, and by virtue of this section 5 of the Right to Information Act, the designation APIO will be responsible. Then PIOs are there, first information officers are there, then where the first appellate officer is there, that is take place within the institution itself. So, and the final is CIC and SIC. So three categories of designation officers are here. Now the request for obtaining the information. This section is also very important. And how a person who desires to obtain an information under this act shall make a request in writing. And now, due to the science and technological advancement, this RTI Act came in 2005. Through electronic means, through English or Hindi or any official language of the area which the application is being made, accompanying such fee as may be prescribed. What is the prescribed fee? The prescribed fee is a 10 rupees only. As I was discussing in the UK, two types of fee system was there. In India, we have only one. 10 rupees for the information. And if you are willing the more than pages, 2 pages, you have to pay 2 rupees per page for A4 size. This is the only fee structure that has to be given by the information seeker to the public authority. Now, the central public information or the state public information officer, as the case may be, the concern of the concerned public authority, the central assistant public information or the state assistant public information, as the case may be, specifying the particulars of the information sought by him or her. There, one proviso is added with this. The provided that where such a request cannot be made in writing. It is very important. The CPIO or SPIO, as the case may be, shall render all the सब कुछ अपनी सारी सहायता उपलब्ध साहब हो सकता है भारत. One thing is very important to understand here. One thing is being educated, and another is literate. In India, we have too much literacy, but most of them people you can find that they are not even able to write, although they are literate. So there is a difference between literate and educate. So that is a apart discussion. So here the CPIO or SPIO, they will give all the reasonable assistance to the person who is seeking the information. अगर वो बोलता है, once he gives oral, they will reduce the same in the writing. An applicant making request for information shall not be required to give any reason. Here it is very important. Here it becomes very important because recently in Madras High Court, they decide in a case, they give a decision that citing reason is important, and the information seeker have to cite the reason also, that for what reason they are asking the information. Now they themselves take their decision back in the review, and sometimes where the judges find the open criticism, they said that it was just my arbiter, not ratio. So same thing sometimes it happens, and it's not a new thing, new phenomena that take place in India very oftenly. So that judgment has been taken. So it is categorically mentioned that need not to cite any reason. कुछ भी आपको बताने की जरूरत नहीं है कि आप किन कारणों से सूचना लेना चाहते हैं. आप सूचना लेना चाहते हैं, बस इतना पर्याप्त है. इसके लिए आपको कोई कारण बताने की आवश्यकता नहीं. अब रिक्वेस्ट कैसे डिस्पोजल की जाएगी, ये सेक्शन 7 में बताया गया. सेक्शन 7 सामान्य रूप से टाइम बता देता है कि 30 दिन का समय रहेगा जिसमें आपको सूचना दे देनी है. Within 30 days from the receipt of the information, the disposal of request is to be made. Here, 35-40 days time period is also there if the third party information or the information relating to the third party, it involves to the decision consultation with the other party. So 30 days, 35 days, and 40 days time period is there. Now, one proviso is also added with this section 7 in the disposal of the request. It says, when the information that has been desired by the party is relating to the concerns of the life, liberty of person, the same shall be provided within the 48 hours of the receipt of the request. अगर कोई सूचना ऐसी है कि जिसमें किसी व्यक्ति का जीवन, उसकी स्वतंत्रता से संबंधित कोई सूचना मांगी जा रही है, तो 48 घंटे के भीतर पब्लिक अथॉरिटी ऐसी सूचनाओं को उपलब्ध करा देगा. सेक्शन 8 बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, और ये इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है क्योंकि इसमें एग्जेम्पशंस बताए गए. अर्थात ऐसी सूचनाएं जिन्हें आप नहीं ले सकते। मैंने जब यूके का लॉ बताया आपको, जब यूएसए के लॉ की बात मैंने आपसे की, तो उन दोनों जगहों पे जब पैट्रियाट और नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एक्ट की बात मैंने आपसे यूएस में की, तो इंडिया में भी देखिए मूल रूप से वी हैव opted the skeleton of the government of India Act 1935 for the our constitution. And all those vestiges which were prevailing in the government of India Act 1935, they as it is came in the Indian Constitution. And the Constitution by which right 19(1)(a) speech and expression, that is also not absolute right. 19(2) onwards puts restriction on this freedom of speech and expression. And this all these exception, 9 exceptions that are 19(2), almost a similar type of restriction has been because this art right to information act is a byproduct of this freedom of all those restrictions to some extent more or less has been given in section 8 of the right to information act also. Section 8(1)(a) talks about the information disclosure of which would prejudicially affect the sovereignty and integrity of India. The security, strategic, scientific, and economic interests of the state, relation with the foreign state are lead to incitement of offense. Now you just read Article 19 class, Article 19 class 2. In similar fashion, you will find the restrictions over there also. So, for an example of economic interest of the state, one case becomes very important. And that case is a Kamal Anand versus Central Board of Direct Taxes. In this case, the appellant sought departmental guidelines relating to the scrutiny policy for non-cooperation SSP during the financial year of 2006 and 2007. The Central Public Information Officer, CPIO, denied this under Section 8(1)(a) because it would prejudicially affect the economic interest of the state. Now, the first appellate authority, while upholding the decision of the CPIO, stated that if detailed guidelines are made in public, then any unscrupulous taxpayers could adjust his or her declaration of income to avoid verification by the income of tax officer. In the second appeal, the CIC, the appellant requested for information related to the previous financial year, and since that period is over, it can be disclosed without any policy implementation. On behalf of the public authority, it was stated that every year a large number of income tax returns are filed by the taxpayers, and only a small percentage of them are taken up for the scrutiny. The Income Tax Department issues guidelines for selection of the cases for scrutiny for the use of assessing officers of the department. And if the guidelines for selection of the cases are made public, that on what ground the cases are being selected, these are like they have potential to be misused by some unscrupulous taxpayers to evade taxes at will. Further, the department was of the view that disclosure of the scrutiny guideline to whom they select would not serve any public interest. Now, here the public interest, this plea has been taken that whether public interest is involved or not, and will, on the contrary, adversely affect the economic interest of the state by facilitating offense of tax evasion. It was also submitted that submissions are being submitted after approval of the Union Finance Minister. Here, one thing that I want to immediately discuss with you, because time is running very fast. If there is a issue relating to the third party information, as here it was an issue related to the how they pick up to choose the people for the scrutiny of the income tax. It is a assistant public information officer. When information is desired by a citizen, and the public authority says that this information is related to the third party. Okay, fine, no problem in that. So the public authority who is having the information of that third person will automatically disclose the information. The answer is big no. They have firstly give notice to the third party. And if the third party says that there is nothing to hide, I'm an open book, you can give all the information relating to me. Now, here on this answer also, the public, the assistant public information officer will take a second thought and give it will observe that disclosing the information here it is important to disclosing the information will promote the public interest or holding the information will protect the individual interest. Now here individual interest and public interest becomes a very important issue. It is a public information officer who will all the times, he is a judge in this case, in the third party information, he has to decide, he has to apply all his intellect because he is the judge here. He will weigh that whether the withholding the information that is related to the third party is for the promotion of the public interest or giving the information officer, giving the information relating to the third party, it will give, it will maximum help the give the public interest, protect the public interest. Now he have to weigh where the burden of convenience is there, where the shifting of burden is there. He will decide. And it simply means their decision is not sufficient because always when the information is related to the third party, it is always open for the third party to go in the first appeal and as well as it is open for the second appeal also. And now there is a long journey because here the third party information of it as far as this third party information is concerned, right to privacy enters in the area of this right to information. That is and the discussion I'll discuss and I'll get the time. Now, section 8.1 is there. One thing that becomes very important here, SC Sharma versus Ministry of Home Affairs case, it is also very important case in this regard, section 8.1a. Now, the exemption 2, the disclosure forbidden by the courts and tribunal. If any information which has been expressly forbidden to be published by any court of law or tribunal, that disclosure of information may constitute the contempt of court. Here on this point, a very important case is KM Talera versus Cantonment Board, Pune. Actually, it is a very important case. And another very important case on this point is Vishwanath Podar versus Ministry of Company Affairs. And in all the two cases, the only exemption in a sub judice matter is what has been expressly forbidden from disclosure by a court or a tribunal, and what may constitute contempt of court is an example of such exemption. And third is the exemption is disclosure, closing breach of privilege of parliament, state legislature. And as you all are aware that our constitution gives parliamentary privilege that cannot be breached at any cost. And two very important cases are important here. One is a Priyalal Party versus Rajya Sabha Secretary Act. And in this case, the commission held that the proceeding of a select joint committee are not disclosable unless placed before the parliament or legislature. and another is Manohar Parikar and another versus Accountant General of Goa. Uh, this case is also very important in this regard. Uh, Exemption 4 is also there, what talks about the harming competitive position of third party. This in this case, one very important case is an Ambrason versus Indian Overseas Bank Chennai, and in this case, the commission held that the information sought relate to the public action which regard to the processes that have been followed in the purchase of the computers and other accessories. Such actions clearly fall under the public domain, and therefore exemption claimed under Section 81B is not justified. Uh, Commercial agreement has also been given exemption under this Section 8 of the Right to Information Act, and then information which are coming in the fiduciary relationship is also has been placed in the uh, exemption clause. Two things that I would like to discuss here. One, DOPT instruction. What is the DOPT instruction? Whether ACR, annual confidential report, that is every public servant is having this ACR. क्या इसे डिस्क्लोज किया जा सकता है या नहीं? एक सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट आया देवदत्त वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया ऑन मे 2008. And actually, the government of India, the Department of Personnel issued an office memorandum on 14th May 2009 that the annual confidential report, this ACR, will be modified as annual performance assessment report, that is APAR, and full APAR, including the overall grade and assessment of integrity, shall be communicated to the concerned officer. The concerned officers shall be given the opportunity to make any representation against the entries and the final grading given in the report, and this new system is applicable prospectively with effect from the reporting period of 2008 and 9. So it is open. Now, if the question is disclosure of evaluated answer sheets, cut-off marks, and question-wise marks, here, one case is also very important, that is a Central Board of Secondary Education versus Aditya Bandyopadhyay. Actually, in this Aditya Bandyopadhyay case, the respondent appeared for the secondary school examination conducted by the CBSE. And not satisfied with the result, he applied for inspection and re-evaluation of his answer book. This was rejected, stating that information sought is exempted under Article 8, Clause 1, Subclause E of the RTI Act, and since CBSE shared fiduciary relationship with its evaluators, examinations bylaws of the board provide no re-evaluation or disclosure or inspection of the answer books, and the CIC is one of its full bench in this case has ruled out all the arguments of the CBSE and held the respondent file a writ petition in the Calcutta High Court. The CBSE contended that about 12 to 30 lakhs candidates across the country appear in the examination of 10th and 12th examination. And once it will be open, it will be just like to open the thousands and lakhs of the RTIs to the CBSE. In this case, the division bench said evaluated answer books of an examinee being a document, manuscript, record, or opinion fell within the definition of the information that is given in Section 2F of the RTI Act. It further held that examining bodies were bound to provide inspection of evaluated answer books of the examinees, and the High Court rejected revaluation of the answer book, as that was not a relief available under the RTI Act, but the RTI Act only provided that right to access information and not for any consequential relief. So here it becomes important that through the RTI you can check your evaluated answer sheets, but it is not a grievance redressal mechanism. This is a right to information act. You can get the information. You cannot get redressed of your grievance. It is only to get information. Now, uh, one important thing is whether DPC minutes are disposable or not. Rakesh Kumar Singh and others versus Lok Sabha Secretariat and others is a very important case on this point. And full bench of the commission, CIC, held that the proceedings of the Departmental Promotion Committee or its minutes are not covered by any of the exemptions provided for under 8.1 of the therefore such proceedings and minutes are to be disclosed. Disclosure of the proceedings of Department Promotion Committee and Selection Committee meeting was also affirmed by the Commission. Two cases here are very important. One is Sarda P. Meshram versus DOPT, and another is Jyoti Legha versus UPSC. Now, these are the exemptions that is given. And one more important exemption is the information received from confidence from the foreign government. And in this point, a very important case is Arun Jaitley versus CBI. In this case, the appellant sought information regarding the correspondence exchanged between the Crown Prosecution Service of the United Kingdom, the Interpol, and the CBI relating to the freezing and defreezing of the bank accounts of the Ottavio Kotraichi and other ongoing investigations. The CBI claimed exemption on the ground that communication with other external agencies which are cooperating on the matter of are privileged communication and has except from disclosure as under section 8.1F and 8.1E. Here, the commission upheld that this decision was observing that the CBI had been investigating the case for nearly 16 years and without much success, and such exemption would not be applicable after expiry of 20 years. The CBI was therefore advised to expedite the investigation. Here, what becomes very important? Here is a provision that in the exemption, excluding some exemptions, if the 20 years time period has been passed, the closed exemptions becomes open, and for a limited time period these exemptions are given, as it was given in the UK Constitution and as well as the UK Freedom of Information as well as the USA Freedom of Information laws. Now, as far as the Section 9 is concerned, it talks about the uh, infringement of the copyright, and in that the information can be withheld by the public authority. 10 is severability. 11 is the third party information, and here how the CIC, SIC will be appointed. The provisions are there, and how the committee in the CIC, Prime Minister and the leader of opposition, and all the proceedings are same, as you people must be aware that in almost all the laws is the committees are being framed to appointment. Here, what is important? Two sections are very important. One is the Section 18 and another is the Section 19. As far as the Section 18 is concerned, it gives power. Suppose you visited any public authority or you demanded any information from any public authority, and that public authority has not even constituted a board, a cell designated the officers relating to the giving the information. In that case, what the last resort you will have. So for that reversal, section 18 is there where the aggrieved person, aggrieved seeker of the information can approach to the commission, and commission has authority to give direction for the establishing the information cell. One important thing, all the necessary requirements to facilitate, they will give the direction. And another important thing, they have right to take all the necessary steps and even the disciplinary action against that the public authority too. Here, article section 19 is there. And in section 19, the important thing is they have the provision to give the appeal provisions are there. And in the appeal, basically, the first appeal time period is fixed, and that has to be dealt within the institution, and that has to be decided by the first appellate officer. The first appellate officer, if the APIO denies to give the information to the information seeker, or wrongly give the information, or non-information, or misinformation, the aggrieved citizen can go for the first appeal within the department. And the first appellate officer, generally of the same department, can give the information officer, can give the information, and the grievance can be reversed. But in general observation, it has been seen that this first appellate officer, no such power has been given and no such liability has been fixed on the first appellate officer. Although he can play a very important role in this Right to Information Act and its implementation. But unfortunately, he is just an officer without any task. And it is a result of that all the information seekers, although it is a necessary mandated under the RTI Act that they have to file first appeal, they have approached to either SIC or CIC for the second appeal. Unfortunately, the CIC and SICs are overloaded. They are overburdened. And no such time period has been fixed by this Right to Information Act for the disposal of the second appeal. And that is why 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, even 10 to 12 years pendency of the cases is in the CICs and SICs. So the ultimate object behind the Right to Information Act is being frustrated. And that is why this RTI Act 2005 have been slowly weakened, and people, the executive or the persons who are involved in this functioning of the RTI Act, they are still in the colonial hangover. Once you will see the appointments of the commissioners, you will see 85% of the commissioners are the ex-public servants. They have undoubtedly on the post-retirement job, and they will show their loyalty towards their bosses, their political bosses. And you cannot see the object and reason which was given, the promote transparency and accountability in the government that was given in the preamble of this RTI Act is going to be fulfilled. And that is why it becomes very important. It is a suggestive measure that when this 2019 amendment was made in this Right to Information Act, this section 19 was also to be amended. Although this 2019 amendment was, there was no use, it was totally unwarranted in the RTI Act, and it was actually, it is an attempt to opaque the whole RTI Act. So here it was a place where the amendment was required, and at least 19 days time period has to be fixed. Now, certain organizations have been, by virtue of this Section 24 of this RTI Act, certain organizations have been excluded from the purview of the Right to Information Act. 25 organizations are there, and they have been scheduled in Schedule 2 of the Right to Information Act. Once you will go to the list of these organizations, you will find that these organizations are dealing in with their very sensitive work, security and integrity for the nation. They are they are having very classified information. So they all these informations these organizations have is not supposed to be discussed in the public. But one exception is there. Although these bodies have been excluded from the purview of the Right to Information Act, yet if there are certain issues relating to the violation of the human rights, these organizations are also within the ambit of Right to Information Act to give the information regarding the violation of the human rights. Now, this RTI Act actually was not only started this journey through the interpretation of the constitutional Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution through the judiciary. The first Administrative Reform Commission, the second Administrative Reform Commission, where they talks about the vigilance, they talks about the transparency, they talks about the accountability, they talks about the ombudsman. Equally, the Right to Information Act came into the existence. And not only that, when we see the time period of the uh, government of Janata Party government, this movement started from the Janata Party government also. So political intent is very clear. Executive administrative reforms are very clear. And on the demand of the people have demanded this right to information. And just 2015 means at least it is till now not adult in true sense, if we say. And here an attempt is made to amend the Right to Information Act. And that attempt has been made in 2019. What actually have been changed in the Right to Information Act and what was the necessity? Actually, there was no such necessity to change the Right to Information Act. No such necessity as per my limited knowledge as a student of the Right to Information law. I don't find any necessity. And what was the plea from the side of the government? Here, two things become very important to understand. One is the political intent and another is the legislative intent. Actually, this 2019 amendment in the Right to Information Act is induced and influenced by the political intent and not through the legislative intent. Right to Information Act 2005 is a watershed in the annals of the independent and democratic India. It established a robust mechanism for the effectuation of the fundamental rights to information. In the democratic framework, transparency, accountability, alternance, public awareness, and government-public interactions are the fundamental pillars of the good governance. And it is needless to say that RTI Act was doing in that line to achieve these objectives. When you see the non-appointment of the information commissioners, a rising tendency to deny furnish information. In increasing backlog of the second appeal, the l- attitude of the information commissioners, especially those who are working in this area during this COVID-19 pandemic, together all these factors have severely affected the efficacy of the right to information, this principal act of right to information. This 2019 amendment is a fraud with several inconsistencies, the absence of the cogent justification, public consultation, a failure to address the real lacuna in the RTI institutions. The first stakeholder in this RTI Right to Information Act was the public. Nobody was consulted. And undeliberated hasty passage of the bill in the parliament. And these, among other unwarranted, alarming episodes, have cast a shadow of doubt upon the intention of the government. Activists and jurists have opined that these amendments would weaken the right to information, the whole regime of this right to information. And before dividing into the main intent, it was totally undesired. Just take the example by amending Section 27 of the Act. This Section 4 of the Amendment Act has authorized the central government with absolute rule-making power concerning the tenure, terms of services, and salaries of the Information Commissioner. Pursuant to the amending Section 27 of the RTI Act, amendment by this amendment 2019, the central government notified the right to information term of office, salaries, allowances, and other terms and conditions of the service of the Chief Information Rules 2019. Against all justifications, an argument posed by the government for the amendment to give more conformity that what should be the time period. It was categorically mentioned just like the election commission. Against all the justification and arguments, RTI Act can be overlooked by this amendment. Various legal luminaries and human rights activities have opined on this amendment that it will result the affect and endanger the independent and impartial functioning of the information commissions. Second important thing, it will hamper the federal structure also. The whole sole power have been taken by the government, central government. Now, this will also affect. Here, one thing becomes very important. Okay, fine. The amendment has been made in this RTI Act 2009. But in this attempt, what was the actual endeavor from the side of the government? The actual intent is that there are other acts also, other like the CBI and other things are there. Clear cut mention that impeachment procedure will be like that, appointment will be like that, tenure will be like that. So what was the wrong in this RTI Act that their tenure and their removal will be like the chief election commissioner? What was the wrong in that? To give more clarity, this clarity has been created by the government. And now, here it becomes very important to understand that autonomy is okay. Autonomy should be there. But this RTI Act was not having the autonomy like CBI. But why I am quoting here CBI? Because it becomes very important. Less autonomy is good, but credibility is a very much important thing. More autonomy and zero credibility that nowadays CBI is having, that was not the case in the RTI. But unfortunately, in 2019, This attempt have been made in the case of Right to Information Act 2005 also. Now, uh, number of cases can be discussed, but I think I tried my level best to touch all the portions of RTI Act. One thing that is important is that I have left, that is the Section 22, that is non-obstante clause. That in this Section 22, it not only gives overriding effect to the Official Secret Act 1923, but other all laws also which are uh, creating hurdles in the pathway of the free flow of the information. And in that way, in the there is sometimes a discussion that 123 is there of the Indian evidence. So 162 is also there in the Indian evidence. And another important thing that is required to be that how this Right to Information Act is relating to the uh, it's a new development in the form of right to privacy in the uh, Right to Information Act. So Mr. X versus Hospital Jet case is already there, which R. Rajgopal versus the state of Tamil Nadu case is there, and recently case Puttaswamy is also here. And here, in all the cases, what right to privacy is? Right to privacy is discussed in the personal aspect. Here, right to information is discussing the information in the domain of the public authorities. It becomes very important here to understand. This right to privacy is in solely in the domain of the private sphere, not in the public sphere. And finally, I would like to uh, the uh, questions that has been posed for me. By this word, thank you very much, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to give a talk on that. Although I have tried to cover because an overview was so difficult a word for me. So I tried my level best. One thing that I would like to quote here, because if I had not quote this case, my whole object will be frustrated. When I discussed, I forget. In the beginning, you people must have seen that judicial attitude was very positive to us. So one case came, Subhash Chandra Agarwal. Actually, this case has created the history in the Indian judicial system, where the PIC judgment has been challenged in the Delhi High Court. Delhi High Court upheld the judgment. Supreme Court through its registrar of the CI and again registrar appealed in the Supreme Court and Supreme Court took take 9 years time to decide whether the Chief Justice of India is a public authority within the definition of Right to Information Act or not. And basically, the whole information was very easy, where the medical expenses and some other expenses have been desired from the Subhash Chandra Agarwal. And Supreme Court itself forget its own decision, hospital X versus Z, and it was said, आज तो इन्होंने मेरी एक चीज की ये जानकारी मांगी है, कल ये भी ये पूछेंगे कि मुझे बीमारी क्या हुई है. They have themselves forget their own decision. And this was the U-turn. Student of law. I am thinking that undoubtedly Supreme Court is crusader and they will protect the right of the common man. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you so much for such an exhaustive, brilliant lecture. I think that nothing is left because I had posed that if any query is there, it can be posted in the chat box. But I am seeing only the good remarks about you, very good feedback we have received about your lecture. Madam had written that it is a complete code in itself. And I am very, very sure that all the students who have opted RTI paper, this time, and all the CBCS students, for them, it is going to be very, very fruitful. Ma'am, would you like to say something? Saxena ma'am?
I would just like to congratulate Rajeev for his entire lecture. It was a wonderful lecture, a complete code on RTI, and you have tried your level best to give everything about RTI. So once again, congratulations. Because RTI is a law which is required, which is a need of this democratic nation. And you see, by 2019 amendment, some teeth have been taken back from this RTI Act. But otherwise, also, if any person who is desirous to seek information can take information, and we have very elaborately analyzed the various provisions of the Act of 2005. And that's a wonderful job you did here. And starting from the global issues regarding RTI, everything you have spoken in a well-structured manner. So once again, I'm thankful to hear you in this platform of Alumni lecture. As I told you earlier also during your PhD Viva, that you have saved us. This time again, I'm very, very happy to have a student like you. Thank you.
थैंक यू ऑल
Thank
योर
you.
ब्लेसिंग्स मैम। जो कुछ मिला है सब वो चीजें थोड़ी सी आगे पीछे करके जाती हैं मैम। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your kind and good words. Now, Shiv, are you there? Now
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Now
Yes,
I
ma'am. I'm
invite
here.
Shiv Kumar for the formal vote of thanks on behalf of the department and on behalf of the Dhara. That is our alumni association. Shiv Kumar, over to you for the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeev Kumar Singh, sir, for illuminating us with a different dimension of Right to Information Act. It's my pleasure that today I got another opportunity to strengthen my knowledge on this topic. Foundation of this topic was laid down in my life as well as many others by Dr. Rajeev Kumar Singh, sir, during my one-year LLM course from 2016 to 16 batch. So, sir, I am extremely thankful to you. I extend my thanks from my side as well as on behalf of Head of Department, Professor Preeti Mishra ma'am, as well as Professor Preeti Saxena ma'am, and other faculty members of the departments. I also extend my thanks to Professor Preeti Mishra ma'am, present Dean of School of Legal Studies and Head of Department of Human Rights, for taking wonderful initiative to organize such kind of alumni lecture series. Thank you so much, ma'am. I also extend my sincerest thanks to Professor Preeti Saxena ma'am, a senior professor of the department as well as directors of CPGLS. Professor Preeti Saxena ma'am has always been source of inspiration for such kind of events. I also thank to all other faculty members of the department, Dr. Rachida Athar, Dr. Shashi Kumar, Dr. Rashwit Sankal, Dr. Ajay Kushwaha, Dr. Vijay Bhaskar. I'm also thankful to Dr. Aparna Singh for joining us in this lecture series. I'm also thankful to all the participants, including alumni, Dr. Ashok Kumar, Dr. Shasha Mishra, Mr. Mayank Mehra, Shivani, and research scholar Shivpriya, Dipta Rani, Yogen Tripathi, Jiten Kumar Saroj, Shiv Kumar, me. And I also extend my thanks to all the present students enrolled in the departments, as well as Mr. Mohammad Kamruddin, who has rendered his technical services in this lecture series. I welcome everybody. Over to Mishra ma'am, Professor Preeti Mishra ma'am.
Thank you, Shukman. Thank you for the vote of thanks. I can see in the chat box that some Bihari Prasad has written that I have some question, but I had given the opportunity and that time it was not asked. And now more than 2 hours we have spent here for this lecture. And I think that most of the queries have been satisfied. So on any other forum, we will again invite Dr. Rajeev Singh, where all the questions can be put up to him. I think for today. I would personally like to thank all the faculty members, all the Dhara members, all the teachers from the other organizations who have joined this platform. Indian Yuva Chaupal News Network, I can see they are very active in joining all our lectures, whether it is alumni or any other seminar. So I thank you, India Yuva Chaupal, for joining us here once again. I thank all who have joined from different colleges, from the Amity University itself. I can see that various faculty members and students have joined from there also. So I thank all the participants from the core of my heart for being with us and encouraging us. And I would also like to thank a media person from our university, Nivedita and Dr. Rachana, who have joined us to cover this program and to give the, and in the past also they have given a very good publicity to this program of our department. So thank you, Nivedita. Thank you, Rachana. Once again, I thank all the faculty members. Thank you, Saxena ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Rajeev, so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Giving us your so much exhaustive and masterpiece on RTI today. And I am 100% sure that all must have benefited a lot. So thank you all. Thank you so much. We will meet again on some other topic from the alumni lecture series. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Now I'm closing this.